listening to StreetClothes, the podcast that takes you beyond the four walls of the hospital and into the lives of clinicians who live passionately no matter what happens to spark their hearts. Each week, we dive into the hobbies and side hustles that refuel the clinical spirit, recharge the mind, and remind us all that there's a big, beautiful world out there to keep exploring. StreetClothes, because life happens outside of scrubs.
Today we're turning up the heat, diving into the world of personal chefing. You might be thinking, hey, isn't that just for celebrities and the ultra-rich? Well, prepare to have your mind and your taste buds blown today. The personal chef industry in the U.S. is cooking up a storm with a market size of about $1 billion as of 2023, and it's not just a flash in the pan. It's been growing steadily at about 5% per year, year after year. It looks like more and more people are saying goodbye to frozen dinners and hello to gourmet meals cooked right at home. Now, you might be wondering, who are these culinary wizards? Well, according to the American Personal and Private Chef Association, there's about 9,000 personal chefs in the U.S. And get this, 40% of them used to work in restaurants or hotels. That's right, they traded in the chaos of commercial kitchens for the intimacy of home cooking. And we're going to talk about that home cooking aspect as we get into this interview today. But being a personal chef isn't just about whipping up fancy meals. It's about creativity, adaptability, and sometimes even being a bit of a food detective. Many Americans today are on some kind of special diet, whether it's gluten-free, keto, or vegan, or something else entirely. These personal chefs are masters at tailoring menus to individual needs. Now, let's talk about the clients. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just the rich and famous that are hiring personal chefs. In fact, 40% of personal chef clients are dual-income families with children. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a different demographic in the personal chef industry, and that's seniors, in the vision that our guest has for not only serving seniors with food, but also the personal chef aspect of personal chefing. It's not all about convenience, though. For many people, hiring a personal chef is about health and wellness, and yes, even potentially friendship. Studies have shown that people who eat home-cooked meals more frequently have healthier overall diets. And with the personal chef, you're getting home-cooked meals without having to cook yourself. Kind of obvious. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, except for the cake is probably a low-sugar, gluten-free, organic masterpiece. Now, as you can probably gather, personal chefing isn't just a job. It's a passion. It's about creating experiences, nourishing bodies and souls, and bringing a bit of culinary magic into everyday life. Whether you're cooking for others or just for yourself, remember, in the kitchen, there's always room for creativity, experimentation, and a dash of love. So how long have you been in the business, like on the personal chef side of things?
Well, I started Chefs for Seniors. It's going on a year, actually, August 1st this month is actually a year since I actually had a legit opening for it. Yeah, August 1st was a year when I officially opened.
And so what did you do, like, I guess, prior to doing this as a side kind of hustle thing? You just enjoyed cooking at home, or like, were you always the guy in the family? It's like, hey, if Vinny's going to be there, we know who's cooking.
Yeah. Well, actually it started because, my parents are from Italy. I'm first generation American. So my sister and I used to spend quite a few summers growing up in Italy as well. So I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother in the kitchen. The same with my grandmother in New York as well. So that's where I got my love for preparing food all the time and watching their reaction when they would watch everybody eat their food. So I used to get a big kick out of that because they would have the biggest grins on their faces just watching everyone enjoy the meals. That rubbed off on me. And plus, I have a thing for seniors, so a soft spot for seniors. So I came across the franchise and I looked into it, and that's how I got started in it. But I'm also a chef graduate of the Natural Gourmet Culinary School in New York City, so that I did get legit official, chef training, though not a requirement to purchase the franchise. It's recommended to at least be some sort of cook, but it's not a requirement when purchasing the franchise to have a background as a chef.
And so what did you learn in the school that you didn't learn from Grandma?
To how to follow recipes.
Come on, Grandma.
Grandma didn't need recipes.
That's right. Grandma didn't need it.
Measure with her heart.
That's my point. That's my point. Because actually, I have an instructor who actually invited me to. I was her assistant in Oaxaca, Mexico, on a 2-week cooking gig out in the desert out there, and she was the one who used to push me to follow recipes when I was in school as a chef, because I absolutely positively refused. I couldn't do it. Everything was being done by taste. I just could not legitimately follow a recipe. So whenever they would taste something, they would go, "Is this the recipe that you for the dish?" And I'm like, "No, why is it bad?" They're like, "No, it's pretty good." So
it's like, this tastes Italian, but it's not quite what we're going for with the barbecue.
Yeah, I said it's got, a little added flair here and there. But yeah, so that was the big thing in cooking school that I used to get the evil eye for, was not following or paying attention to recipes.
That's fantastic. Well, that origin story with, cooking with the Italian grandma is probably the best origin story for a personal chef out there, right? I don't think there's a better kind of cliche than, hey, I learned in the kitchen with grandma, and specifically that Italian cooking. I mean, that's a big deal. So you got credentials long before you graduated your cooking school. Right?
Yeah. Plus I should have included my mom as well, because she,
okay.
And now she's 80. She still prepares dinner almost every single day for Dad. So she is the big Italian cook still in the family, especially since the grandmothers are not around anymore. They're great grandparents now, but so she does make some of the old school stuff for her great grandkids, and for us, but not as much as she used to, because we're the old ones. So we don't.
You're like, now Vinny can cook for himself now.
Yeah, we don't count anymore with the the great grandkids around. But
what I'm hearing is that you are an expert at making pasta.
Italian cooking is my strong suit. Yes, naturally, but yes.
So, Vinny, you mentioned too, one of the big takeaways in cooking, especially, cooking that's based at home, is the look on the faces of the people that are now eating what you just made. That was really impactful, for me when you brought that up, because that's the difference. Well, maybe that's not a difference. Well, yeah, I guess it is a difference if you're cooking in a restaurant environment, because you don't get to see the people eating what you make. But at home, it's a completely different story.
Right. Except for the chefs who actually take the time to get involved with their patrons. That's really the only opportunity that they can have to really see what their reactions are to the meals. But yeah, that's what's always fascinated me about it the most, because my maternal grandmother, mostly, she literally would sit herself in front of me while I was eating, just to watch me eat.
Yes. It's the interview. It's like, I got my resume, which is the food I prepared, and now we're going to do the interview, and I'm going to watch you eat this.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So I'm using some phrases here, so I want you to maybe kind of correct me. So the focus of the interview today, we're talking about personal chef. So how would you define what it is to be a personal chef in comparison to just being a cook at home, Or, maybe even like, being a chef that's in a restaurant environment? Like, how are these things different?
Well, to be honest, there isn't really all that much difference, to be honest, especially with personal chefing. Personal chefing, depending on the relationship you build with your clients, can almost become the same exact experience that you would have for preparing meals for family members or really good friends. So it almost intertwines. In regards to being a restaurant chef or a cook, well, I mean, cooks can have the same experience if they're privately cooking for someone. The chef is mostly a training title with having a little more experience on different types of cuisines and how to prepare them visually as well as, aesthetically and as well as for taste. I think it all meshes, but with the restaurants, of course, it's not as personal. Though in the old days, there were restaurants that could be, depending on the owner and the chef, like I mentioned earlier. Private chefing gives you the opportunity to really get to know your clients, especially if they become regular clients. And you almost become part of the family. And the thing is that you get the same kick out of watching them go crazy over the food than you do, your own family members. Because I had one client, she had me cook for her solely for the smell that I left behind in the house. Okay. She wanted me to come and cook just because of what her home smelled like when I left. Forget about the food.
Did you take the food with you and just leave the smell and be like,
take this stuff home?
Yeah. They need to put that in a candle or something. You could just sell her a candle and then don't have to worry about it.
There's an idea.
Yeah.
She literally said that. She goes, it's because of the way her house smelled. I was like, great.
I mean, like, there's few things as personal and, human, I guess, as food. Like, we've all, in school, we all learned the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a little pyramid. And it's like, hey, if you ain't got food, you ain't think about anything else in the world besides what am I going to eat? And, beyond that, like, obviously, like, we're talking about not just, bread and water here. Like, we're talking about, really tasty. It's been prepared by a trained professional, either inside Grandma's kitchen or at a culinary academy, right? That, personal connection, like you've already kind of alluded to it a couple of times, but I'm assuming then to be a good personal chef, that personal aspect is almost just as important as the chef aspect.
Absolutely.
So would you agree? Do you want to nuance that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's all about the developing a connection with the people that you're cooking for. I mean, you're feeding someone. So, there's a whole millions of ways religiously, spiritually, in every aspect of existence of what it means to feed someone. Okay. So when you're preparing their meals, it's the same thing. It's a very strong kind of connection or bond because you're feeding someone. Okay. You're not only are they gaining enjoyment from it, and in a lot of aspects with the business that I do, also companionship, because most of my clients are widowed, not just elderly, but they live alone. So my visit is not just about preparing their meals. They look forward to seeing me and hanging out. So,
it sounds like they almost become like your family.
Correct. I have one gentleman who's a widowed man. He's over in Long Neck. If I tried to stop doing this, there's no way he's going to let me. He's 86 years old. He's widowed. He'll track me down. He knows when I'm back in Delaware from my Steriscape gigs, and he will contact me to come and prepare 2 weeks worth of meals for him, no matter what. The man does not know his way around the kitchen and is obsessed with me being there, preparing his stuff. So, and we hang out and we chat, we talk. And I mean, he's got kids, he's got family, but he lives by himself. So, and he couldn't cook if his life depended on it. And he'll tell you that to your face. So, and he has a kitchen that his ex-wife spent an enormous fortune on the products that were in there and the dishes and everything for that matter, that it's a dream for me to even cook in his kitchen. So, I still, as a matter of fact, this past Saturday, I cooked for him. This past weekend, I was home.
Well, so Vinny, we've heard kind of the personal family background of how you got into this, but you could do a lot of things on this side. There's a lot of hobbies that people have. This entire podcast is talking to people who are doing all kinds of different things. So, why this? Why do you feel like, out of all those options, this personal chefing kind of pulled you in the way that it did?
I think what really pulled me in was the concept of chefs for seniors. Really, is what drew me to it, because actually, I had stopped cooking, except for myself or when I visit friends. My thank you usually when I stay with friends is I always prepare meals while I'm there, and I've spoiled them all because now they're at the point where they give me a look when I arrive. And
it's like, which night are you cooking, Vinny?
Yeah, they pretty much ask me, we haven't seen you looking in the fridge at all since you got here. Because I'm the type that likes to just take what I've got and just create something out of it, make something out of it. I just wanted to put that in a situation where I can benefit people beyond the scope of just being fed. Actually, the business, the LLC that I created around this is called Karmic Cuisine LLC. So I like to do things related to feeling good about me and about helping others at the same time, which brings me back to the food discussion I had earlier, the connection with feeding. So, that played a role. So to be able to do things that I enjoy doing and watching others enjoy it as well is really what really draws me to it, why I enjoy it so much.
So you've kind of alluded to it, but I want to give you a moment to kind of explain a Chefs for Seniors model for anyone who's not aware of this. And I know a lot of us, have aging parents ourselves, or maybe we're already almost into that aging category ourselves. And so it sounds like a really unique and innovative approach to this personal chefing. Can you kind of explain this?
Yes. Chefs for Seniors is a family-owned business that was created in Wisconsin. A chef, Barrett is his name. He's the owner and the president of the company. He and his son co-founded it, and he's been a chef for over 40 years and has owned his own restaurants on the West Coast. His son majored in business in school, and they started at one of his restaurants. He noticed that he was having a lot of senior people coming to dine in there on a regular basis. So his curiosity got to him, and he decided to ask some of his regulars why they ate out all the time. If there was any specific reason besides, the fact that, they like the food or whatever. But, he was seeing them all the time. And basically they told him that, they didn't really have the desire or strength or want or time to prepare meals for themselves or anybody else. So they just found it easier to go out to eat. So that's what brought the idea to mind. And plus the company, they said it gave them the opportunity to get out and socialize as well, instead of being home. And that's what the guy gave him the idea for creating Chefs for Seniors, which he and his son started doing themselves, actually going to clients' homes, to seniors' homes, and they would prepare a week's worth of meals for them. The seniors would have a choice of 4 recipes to choose from, or 4 dishes that could be dishes that they enjoy, and they get a week's worth prepared for them for a standard fee, not including the groceries. So the groceries are also purchased for the dishes that are being prepared about a half hour before the appointment. Then we show up at the home with everything and the utensils if needed, the cookware if needed. Some clients don't have a fully stocked kitchen. I will bring my own machines or necessities if I need to, pots and pans if necessary. But if the client has a fully stocked kitchen, which I do an audit on when I meet them for the first time, then I don't really bring much of anything with me to prepare the meals. I bring containers with me. And what I do is once I prepare all the dishes and they've cooled, I separate them into servings, fill the containers with the servings. I label the servings, store them, fridge, freezer, clean the kitchen, throw out the garbage, and left like I was never there. And then come back on the next visit to prepare the additional choices that they've made.
Wow.
So I'll sit
I hope
down
my
with
wife's
them
not listening to this episode, man. She's going to be like, we're not seniors, but we're calling Vinny. Yeah, we're going to figure this out.
Well, we have a chef out in San Diego. Most of her clients are not seniors. They're professionals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That will not and can't cook. So she literally goes to their home. She has keys to their places. And she just goes and prepares the meals for them and stores them and stashes them. And they have food for, a week at a time.
You said that if they have a fully stocked kitchen, you don't really bring anything. I know that some chefs are very attached to like their knife set. Like, do you bring it? Like, are Are you one of those that like have to have their knives that they have?
Yeah, that's a great question because you hit it right on. My knives are always with me. They're in the back of the car. Yeah.
Nice. It's the skill.
My knife. I've had clients even tell me, hey, we've got these great knives. I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, good for you. I'm glad you decided to invest the money in really good cutlery.
But I'm not using it.
Yeah, it's my knife setup is literally a carry-around pallet that you open up into, and you just open it, and you see all the knives laid out inside it. It's a literal, like a painter's palette kit full of knives.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's not like, you don't keep it like in your trench coat though, right? It's not like you open it up and you got your knives in the
No, it's even got a built-in handle and it folds shut and it stabs. Yeah. Keeps the knives in order, and I just open it up when I need it.
Did you know the average personal chef in the U.S. can serve about 15 clients on a regular basis? That means 15 different diets, 15 different preferences, and 15 different kitchens that you're cooking in. And we'll get into how that complexity impacts the personal chef themselves in the interview. So you mentioned your chef out in San Diego, that cooks for kind of younger professionals, I guess, or, all ages of professionals or whatnot. But, is there a typical client, like the vision for chefs for seniors is that senior kind of clientele? But are there people just kind of from all different walks of life that are utilizing personal chefs out there in the market today? Or is there more of kind of a typical client that you'll see?
Well, a lot of people who contact me think that I prepare the meals away from their homes or someplace else and deliver them to them. Some of them don't even want the service solely because of the fact that they don't want someone cooking in their house or in their kitchen. There are people who are not comfortable with someone cooking in their kitchen, whether they use the kitchen or not. They're just not, the thought just doesn't sink in, having someone come and cook in their kitchen. I get it. Okay. But because believe it or not, even though I'm a personal chef, I would kind of feel weird having something.
You're like, no one else coming in my kitchen. I'll come in yours.
Yeah. You can't use the knives, but no touch.
Yeah. So, I guess they kind of assume it's like a fancy Meals on Wheels that would bring the food to you, but it's prepared elsewhere. But yeah, it's an interesting aspect that the client then has to be comfortable with, right? Or this may not be for them.
Well, we do. I did get Serve Safe Management certified. I had to get that done to run the business, so they're aware of that. I am also insured, heavily insured. Okay, we have background checks done on us, credit checks, before we can even purchase into the structure, into the setup. The same thing goes for if I decide to hire anyone to chef or to take care of the clients, which the only reason I have not gotten into that is because I don't want to deal with the paperwork. That's the only reason I'm still cooking for clients is because I just don't want to deal with having staff, with the mechanics behind that. It's just not for me at this point in my life. So I have a few clients that I've connected with that still, I cook for when I'm home. The age range has been anywhere from early 60s to late 80s. Some couples, some only during recovery from surgeries. So I networked out to the hospitals. So I get a lot of referrals from hospitals for patients who are recovering and can't cook. So I, networked with the local hospitals for that. Also, my attorney, he is also head of a group of attorneys in Sussex, Delaware that handle trials. So clients who can't cook for themselves, they contact me, like car accidents and things of that nature. And the insurance pays for the cooking on that, or the attorney's office does. So, there's quite a few different things that you can take advantage of in that capacity.
So you got attorneys that are chasing ambulances, but then you see Vinny right behind the attorney that's like, "Hey, where are you going? I want to cook for you." what you pull into the ER?
What they break?
Yeah.
What they break?
I love it. No, but this service is it's something that you don't think about, right? Like you get hurt, and then how are you going to cook for yourself? And like, what are you going to do? Like order out like every night through like Uber Eats or, delivery? Like that's going to get old and really expensive really quick. And it's not even good food, right? Like, I mean, it's good on occasion, but yeah, like you don't want to be eating restaurant food every single day for 6 weeks or 8 weeks as you recover. I mean, I think this is a terrific solution to that. That's,
well, also too, remember the majority of issues regarding seniors that walk into the ERs of the hospital is dehydration and malnutrition.
Really?
Okay.
I did not
the
know
two
that.
biggest issues that seniors have when they walk into the ER. Those are like the first things that are caught on or noticed when the tests are done. And they're lonely and they're weak. And who's going to pick up a pot of boiling water or, try and remember how to cook something and deal with it at that age and feeling the way you're feeling and not caring really about anything. So, I mean, the Chefs for Seniors aspect is not just about preparing the meals. Because like I said, I have couples that are clients, not necessarily seniors who are clients, though most of them are. But it's also the companionship aspect of it is big. Spending the time with the clients. Most of my clients will hang out with me in the kitchen when I'm preparing their meals and talk and chat. It's just that I have to keep my time to a certain time period because I can get carried away myself at times. So I can't not pay attention to the meals that I'm preparing. So I am on a time schedule as well. So I try to keep it at no more than 3.5 hours per client, not including the food shopping.
So you mentioned some of the regulatory stuff with, I think, ServSafe is what you called it. So I know around here, at least, restaurants have a grade that they're given by the health department, like a 90, 98, 96. If they're good, if they're not so good, they get lower. But anyway, does the personal chef market have a similar like grading scale, or how does that work?
What's great is that we don't need a grading scale. The reason being is I'm preparing the food in the client's kitchen.
Gotcha.
So there's no grading scale because there's also no board of health concern.
It's their own kitchen. Yeah, it's their own kitchen that They're keeping clean or not. But you're keeping clean because you got a vested interest in it being clean because this is your client. So yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Plus, hey, I maintain aseptic technique in the kitchen as well. So
yeah, we'll get to that here later. Yeah,
I was about to say this is the perfect area for you to be in as far as cleanliness goes.
25% of personal chefs in the U.S. also offer cooking lessons to their clients, which means, yes, they're serving them with food, but it's kind of like they're teaching them to fish as well as catching the fish and bringing it in to prepare. The cliche comes full circle. So let's talk cost, kind of getting into this. Let's say that we got folks tuning into this episode who's like, they love cooking, they love people, and they're listening. Like, if I could cook, man, like the way that you're describing, this is just like really pulling at my heartstrings, right? Like, I love seniors. I love people. I can't cook to save my life, so this ain't going to be the thing for me, but there may be people here. So what kind of costs are we talking about in getting into something like this? Like, you can kind of speak to the gear. Like, I know you mentioned the knife set, but I'm sure there's a lot of other things that you may need as a personal chef. Like, you also mentioned the schooling aspect. And then, like, what do people pay for personal chefs these days? Like, what's the market rate depending on where you're at out there?
Yeah. The market rate for personal chefing really does depend on the population that you're serving. Okay. So, and where is your location? What county are you serving? What neighborhoods are you serving? Because when I was looking at Sussex County before buying into the franchise, they checked and looked what the median incomes were for all the areas in Sussex County, Delaware. And all of this, and you could see the difference from the areas that were closer to the beach to those that were further away from the beach, because Delaware is nothing but beaches and farms. So you could see with where people lived and what the median incomes were like. So you could kind of like gear yourself towards specific areas and figure out what a fair rate would be for the service, which I came to a discussion with the owners of the company as well. So I've also had input from their end. So not all the decisions were made, just through myself. It was also with speaking to them as well for advice and considerations on that. So in regards to the purchasing the franchise, well, purchasing the franchise depends on how large the territory that you're purchasing and how much capital you're willing to put up to set up the business in that respect. It is a home-based business, so overhead is non-existent, really, in this business. And the only thing is, though, of course, you also still need to make sure that you can run a business out of your home before you go and get something like this, because I did have to get a permit to run a business out of my residential home. The only reason why I got it was because I'm not going to have any foot traffic, or else I would not have been able to do it from my house. So the investment is really the franchise fee, more so than anything else. So I don't know if I can mention what they are. They are published on the website, what the fees are. If I can mention it, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
That's fine. Whatever. Yeah.
On the, for Sussex County, all of Sussex County, it's $8,000 for that territory for 5 years, if I remember the years correctly.
Okay, that's not bad.
And no. I had the whole state of Delaware for like 16 grand.
Yeah, well, there's just 3 counties, so
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My wife's from Delaware. That's the only reason that I know a little bit about Delaware.
Oh, okay.
My state knowledge is not that good. I don't know how many counties are in every state, but Delaware is one of the ones that I know.
Oh, yeah, 1, 2, 3.
That's right. What about school? So, if someone wants to go to Culinary Academy, what is that ranging? Well, what's the cost on that?
Culinary school, though, not really necessary to even become a chef, unless you're looking at some level of training to bring you to that level. I wanted to know more, which is what drove me more towards going to school to become a chef more than actually running a business. Okay. It was almost like fine tuning the Italian language. I learned how to speak Italian through my family, but I also took it when I was in high school to fine tune the language for the proper way to speak it. So it's the same thing with cooking. I just wanted to fine tune everything and get a grasp on where everything comes from. So is it necessary? Not at all. Do you love cooking and would enjoy becoming a professional chef? Then by all means, but how much that would cost is completely dependent on the institution and the location of the institution. Because if you look at CIA up in Poughkeepsie, New York, the Culinary Institute of America, you're talking about a small fortune. That's like the Harvard of culinary schools. Okay, so I can't even imagine what it is now per semester there. When I was living there, I lived 10 minutes from the school, and they even have restaurants on the property, and it's right on the Hudson River. The place is outstanding. Okay. The reviews they get too on the student restaurants there are amazing. If you're ever around that area, definitely check out the restaurants there at CIA. So it depends. Or you could be going to some small mom pop culinary school, or a small vegan setup, or a vegetarian setup, or you can go to Europe, or you can go to Paris. Le Cordon Bleu, which you become, you're a Michelin chef when you graduate from Le Cordon Bleu. But again, you're going to be paying a small fortune to attend the school. But when you come out of there, you're all set to go in every aspect of the industry and then some. So, you already have your stars when you graduate from there. So it really all depends on how far and how in depth or how big a chef you want to be. How far do you really want to take it?
Did you know about 62% of personal chefs are female, reflecting a significant gender presence in this field? a substantial number of personal chefs, about 62%, are doing it part-time. And that's actually what our guest today in the interview is doing as well, which indicates this is a pretty flexible side hustle and can be structured into all kinds of different lifestyles and dynamics in addition to your day job. So let's talk about, I know you mentioned that you've been personal chefing, for a little over a year now. In that time, the last 12 months, what's been your favorite memory so far?
My favorite memories are when I get texts and phone calls from my clients days after I leave, reminding me of how amazing the food was. I'm not trying to brag.
And leave a 5-star review, please, for Vinny on it. Is that what you text back? You're like, this is great, but what I really want you to do is go on Facebook now. Put it on my Facebook page.
Yes, actually, they go and put a Google review in for me.
Do they? Great.
Yep. But I think that's one of my greatest memories. And the gentleman who I'm cooking for now, constantly reminds me how grateful he is to see me when I come and prepare food for him, because it really helps him out with his eating habits and his diet, living alone. Getting that feedback from people and that level of impact that I make and them telling me so is huge.
So you mentioned earlier in kind of describing some of the schools, there's vegetarian, there's vegan, but there's just a host of different dietary preferences, but then there's dietary, requirements, either they're religious, their health. How do those specifics impact? Obviously you're serving multiple clientele, and you could be stepping into one context that just extremely different than the next client that you're serving. How do you navigate that? How do you even train for something like that? Is that something that you really got to carve down into if you're going to be a vegan chef versus just a traditional one? Can you kind of speak to those?
Sure. Well, having attended the Natural Gourmet Culinary School in New York, we studied all of those different aspects of cooking, from different cultures to different ethnicities to different diets to spa cooking to macrobiotics to veganism, vegetarianism, from baking to cooking to meat substitutions to anything you could possibly imagine regarding health, whole foods cooking, anything to gear people towards a healthier lifestyle, no matter what their eating preferences are. Even converting recipes. Many times we had to, some of our projects were actually converting recipes from, omnivorous or carnivorous diet to a vegetarian or vegan option, but have it come out pretty much just like that. So we would literally have to convert the recipes over to accommodate the different diets, which were a lot of the projects that we had to do. So I had a background on that already. Before I go see clients, I arrange a meet and greet with the clients. So first I have an initial phone interview with them. If we're both happy with the conversation that we're having, I set up a meet and greet with the clients in their home, preferably. If they're not comfortable with me coming to their home, I'll do a Zoom and they'll show me around the kitchen, because I do a kitchen audit when I'm there. I literally go through all the cabinets, the pantries, the cookware, everything. And I take an audit of everything that's in there. I also take an audit of the pantry, the refrigerator. I'm going to sit down, discuss dietary issues, allergies, medications, if any, doctor recommendations, if there's a specific diet that they need to go on, what foods they hate, what foods they love, their favorite comfort foods, all of that stuff. That by the time I leave their house, I pretty much have a really good idea of what their likes and dislikes are and what they want and don't want. And then during that time, they book me and we choose 4 recipes. And it's called a standard plan, where they choose the 4 recipes: breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or combination of the 3, or the same, doesn't matter, or something that they want that may not even be part of the chefs and seniors recipes. We'll pick the 4 dishes, and my visit to go visit them is $165 a pop for the standard service. That's for preparing the meals and doing the food shopping, cleaning up after myself. I bring the containers for a first visit at no charge to the client. If they keep me on as a regular chef, I usually don't charge them for the containers. And the meals are separate. A half hour before the appointment, I go to the supermarket and purchase all the necessities. And so they get a separate bill for the groceries as well. And they don't have to do anything pay-wise. The next day, I have all their information in the computer on my Jabra app. And the next day, 24 hours later, if there's no issues with any of the meals prepared, I just go ahead and take care of everything for them there. So they don't have to do anything with remembering anything or doing anything really. I take care of everything for them.
And you're making how many meals per?
4 choices from the recipe list. If they want to go outside that, I also do custom cooking for clients at $65 an hour. I custom cook for clients, which they'll just tell me whatever they want, and I'm there for however many hours I'm there for. I don't really do catering events or large parties. I like to keep it small and quiet. When I'm preparing meals, I also like to be focused. If I got to do big events, you're going to have a case of wine on the counter for me while I'm cooking.
Is that for the recipe, or is that?
Maybe
is that for you?
Combination.
Okay. Let's talk misconceptions, and you've already busted a couple of them, I think, so far. But is there anything else, like, when people hear personal chef, or when they think this, or even like with working with clients, like what's those biggest misconceptions that you run into on a regular basis about this industry?
I think the biggest misconception that I come across is the fact that, well, really the only experience I had was with how people feel about someone coming to cook in their home. Because when they realize, see, it's funny because when I get there, of course, everyone's a little uncomfortable, and I'm coming into their kitchen. I'm going to start going through your cabinets, and I'm going to start pulling things out of drawers, and going into the refrigerator and doing all that, which some people, of course, are perfectly fine with. I mean, I've had clients who left the house when I got there, or not even home when I cook for them. But there are those that like to be there. And then my goal is to make that initial tension go away. And I think that biggest misconception is the personal aspect of cooking. They don't think that you can actually have a personal aspect with the person, a one-on-one actually with the person preparing the meals. I mean, I have couples who sit with me during the entire process while I'm preparing meals. And by one couple, that my first client, by the time I leave, half of the dishes are gone. By the time I leave their house that day, her and her husband devoured at least half of the dishes because they have to try them all. And they just keep going. So, I think the big misconception is the connection part of it. And it's a big connection.
Yeah, no, that's big.
Again, you're preparing people's meals face to face, basically, for the most part. So
it's literally in the name, personal chef. Yes. But you're right. That can be really, really easy to miss. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah, so miss that word.
You do this on the side, but let's just say that this could pay all the bills and you didn't have to do your 9 to 5, which we'll talk about here in a second. If personal chefing could pay the bills, would you do this full time?
As much as I love to cook, the amount of clients that I would be taking care of on a daily basis, I don't know if I'd want to accommodate, to be honest. At this point in my to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm being totally
fair enough. Yeah.
I'm taking it easy with this business. I'm taking it light and just doing it because I enjoy it. I'm not doing it for financial gains.
Personal chefs in the U.S. come from a variety of backgrounds, from all different kinds of communities, trainings, and backgrounds. As we discussed in today's show, many times there's not even any kind of official training or certification that has to be done. If you know how to cook, if you're good in the kitchen, you can find opportunities to bring that skill set out there to the market in catering, in parties, in cooking lessons, and then again in the personal chefing context that we're discussing. But just keep in mind there may be some regulatory requirements depending on your state and your locality. And I think, if you ask a lot of at least family chefs, right? It's one thing to cook the meals, right? But it's another thing to do this 9 to 5 every day, and you're just kind of a machine that's cooking. I think you would lose some of that passion and creative flair. So I completely get that.
I'd be concerned about not wanting to cook for myself or family members anymore.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's great. All right, Vinny. So, the vision for this Street Clothes podcast is we talk to clinicians about what they do outside of scrub. So, we held off for this interview, but what is your day job? What do you do in the healthcare setting?
At the moment, I'm a national clinical educator for Steris. And at the moment, actually, right now, I'm in Denver, Colorado. I'm on assignment at a hospital in Inglewood doing the education for their sterile processing department.
So you travel around doing education training for folks all around the U.S.?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Newbie.
So what, if anything, does clinical education in healthcare have to do with personal chefing?
In a weird way, you can totally combine the two, because an aspect in regards to the fact that I've done a lot of precepting and orientating in the OR as a scrub as well. That's where it all started. Really flows with the personal chefing, because what happens is when I do personal chef, it's not just the relationship that I build with the client to making sure they feel very comfortable with me preparing their meals, but also it turns into conversations about diet. It turns into conversations about their concerns about their health. Not that I advocate anything. I don't prescribe anything. Okay. But they always seem to want to bring up these things that they've read about, this particular food that helps, I don't know, arthritis, joint aches, things of that nature, their skin, eczema, rashes, things of that nature. And some of them, my clients have been going through testing for all of these things, for dietary reasons, for allergies and things of that nature. And I've been cooking for them during these processes. So I've been there with them when they've gotten their results as well as to what was going on. So it becomes pretty personal on there. So the connection isn't that far off. And plus, there's the cross-contamination in the kitchen. We're not going to want to do any cross-contaminating.
Sure. Yeah.
So the connection to sterile processing, the connection even to the OR in that respect, because when I set up my back table, that's how I set up my kitchen.
That's true, because your background, you were a surgical tech originally, right?
For years, that's what brought me into sterile processing. Actually, was being a surgical technologist. So a lot of aspects of surgical technology, as in again preparing my back table, plays a role in preparing my kitchen before I start cooking. So I've got everything in place. Everything is labeled. The bowls are out. Everything's chopped up. I just grab and mix and throw and all over the place. So same thing as when I set up the back table.
I love it. Yeah. So instead of grandma like you're setting you down, watching you eat, now you got the surgeon. It's like setting you down, watching you work, making sure that you're getting that back table set up correctly.
I keep seeing this like Master Chef like style of like they stare at you as they put the bite in their mouth, like chewing, just staring into your eyes, like.
Well, the thing is that I get very. They know that I'm waiting for their reaction, so I'm and they don't fake it. That I can honestly say. But they've been my first client. She constantly raves about the taste of the food, and she literally, like I said, she can't stop. I have to pull the dishes that are cooling away from her because they're outside. I have nothing to store in her fridge.
Yeah, right. This is supposed to last you 4 days, ma'am. We can't leave here without any of them left.
Yeah, and they've all had me make my lasagna because I'm known for. There's a lasagna that I make that is ridiculously easy to make, but everybody goes nuts over. So every client has asked me to do that at least, I don't know how many times to make that. So, there's always special requests as well for my Italian stuff.
So, Vinny, I got a feeling that we're going to have a lot of questions after this episode. So if anyone wants to ask you for your lasagna recipe, if they're in the Delaware area and they say, hey, I'm 40, but I'm going to self-identify as a senior, try to call Vinny up to get you on. So how do they track you down?
Sure. Well, I have my website is Vinny, Vinny.Stancarone, Stancarone at chefsforseniors.com. All one word. My business number is area code 302-579-1367. My webpage is chefsforseniors, all one word, .com/. chefsforseniors.com/Sussex, SUSSEX-Delaware. chefsforseniors.com/Sussex-Delaware.
And Vinny, you're on LinkedIn too. You're in a nice kind of black suit, I think, was the last time I saw that with a little red carnation. Yeah, tuxedo. That's what it was. Yeah. So folks can track you down by your profile picture on there too.
Yes, I've also meant to get my LinkedIn set up for that as well, which I'm working on, actually.
Yeah, great. I can help you with that if you need some help.
Appreciate it.
Let me know.
Yes, thank you.
Terrific interview, Vinny. This is just a fantastic story. There's so much in this passion for chefing that goes beyond the food, and I think that came across loud and clear in this episode. So really appreciate you sharing your passion with us today.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it as well. It was great speaking to you both.
That was Vinny Stancarone with Steris, sharing the ins and outs of his side hustle as a personal chef with us today. Thanks for listening to this episode of Street Clothes, where we explore the lives of clinicians outside of the hospital. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to reach out with an interest that maybe you have taken up outside your department. That's a wrap for this episode of Street Clothes, proudly brought to you by the Healthcare HQ Network. Now, get back to what moves you, because life happens outside of scrubs.